Venom War, Fantastic Four, issue number 1. We take off with the Red Goblin fighting the Rubber Man. Each are a pawn in a war between Kang and Dr. Doom in this proxy war. Now, the superficial observer might well be impressed by this dramatic spectacle of superhuman violence, as one helpless symbiote furiously savages the other in the final 45 seconds of the climactic struggle. Rascal, symbiote aka the Red Goblin, when bonded to Normie Osborn. Flexo, proto-symbiote aka the Rubber Man. Stop it, Rascal. What's wrong with you?
Kang!
Metal Face. The truly monumental battle, however, is playing out, has in fact been playing out for entire decades, if not subjective centuries, on another level entirely. A proxy war between Kang the Conqueror and Victor Von Doom has been brewing behind the closed doors while Eddie and Dylan Brock battle over who should remain bonded to the Venom symbiote. The price is high for Eddie and Dylan, the fate of their future and alternate selves as well, as their lives are at stake after witnessing a terrifying vision of their dystopian destinies. Dylan has brought symbiote allies with him such as Rascal and Flexo, but when they suddenly started fighting, it became clear the symbiotes had found themselves under the control of Doom and Kang, both unwitting pawns in their centuries-long struggle for power and dominance. In Doom and Kang's violent chess match, Doom has chosen Flexo as his game piece, while Kang has selected Rascal. But as the symbiotes savage each other, on the surface, what will happen to Dylan and Eddie? And in this war behind the Venom War, will it be Doom or Kang to come out on top? Let's find out in Venom War Fantastic Four number 1. For this silly, inconsequential symbiote brawl represents the decisive endgame in a chrono-manipulative chess match between Doom and myself. Victor, you see, has exacted a laudably complex chrono scheme, deploying the proto-symbiote Flexo as a game piece, in a shrewd counter-move against my own long-developed gambit that covertly implanted the unsuspecting symbiote Rascal with the mercilessly coercive will of Kang, as our dueling machinations at last flail and bludgeon and claw their way to the final resolution. Rascal!
Kang!
Metal Face! I find myself delighted, however condescendingly, by the sheer tenacity of my own sadly overmatched foe. We have chosen starkly different approaches to the industry-scale production of staggering complex strategies necessitated by our own respective roles as apex masterminds. Castle Von Doom, Doomstab Latveria. Doom has pursued an algorithmic means of mass scheme generation, fueled by a myriad of cybernetic emulations of his own intellect, by programming a select cadre of cunningly elite Doombots to tirelessly spawn one labyrinth plot after another. Intractable for lesser intellect that is. Doomware, crafted cognition, knows no bounds. Should the master separate Osborn Brat from his Kang entangled symbiote? Or would eliminating Osborn directly better serve long-term objectives of Doom himself? But are symbiotes' hive minds as receptive to magic-enhanced hypnosis as biological minds? Kang's influence must be purged from the symbiote, but how? While calculating endless potential countermoves against the manifold variables of contingencies and complications that might unravel those plans. Thank you, fools. What radical neural-swapping techniques that Doom himself appropriated from the learned, ungainly ovoids. Flexo's current hypnotic imprinting could be expanded. Think! In a marathon brainstorming session that rambles on day in and night without end. Repurposed on weapons, the Ovil's mental martial arts might serve well indeed. Foil that preening chrono dandy. We see the Strategic Planning Cyber Collective, aka the Schemebots, the 15th generation, on their thinking. As iron sharpens iron, so do Victor Schemebots ruthlessly critique and dissect and refine each other's algorithmic outputs. Why a cyber fool? You laughable plan is unworthy, and even the mad thinker alone Doom himself. Your ill-conceived scheme lacks even the most elementary third-order options compensating for black swan setbacks. As Doom wills! As Doom wills! As Doom wills! The opioid's art and cognitive cumulation could easily be weaponized in such a fashion, my master. This Flexo's crude intellect would require more extensive magic, enhanced hypnosis, my master. I am well aware that the amusing chrono stratagem that Doom now seeks deployed against me was in fact originally devised by several of his more tactically imaginative scheme bots. Pity then that the scheme bots' algorithmically indefatigable intellectual labors were for naught. I find your insights plausible and viable. Thus I deem you a revised Flexo strategic proposal to be Doom-worthy. For I've already counted Doom's opening move before it could even be made.
Doom as it wills, doom as it wills.
Jump to Kane in Chronopolis in a time loop. The time loop duration is 1 hour. He who schemes. Such is expected to be, of course, given the vastly superior approach that I have chosen for the mass generation of baroquely convoluted chrono schemes. Periodically, every king must pause his conquering for perhaps a second or two, and then weave himself into a repeating time loop within which he can spend subjective years or decades or centuries, while crafting thousand-fold, endlessly multifaceted hyperplans of mind-boggling complexity for his unlooped king self later's use. The chrono looped and mind state, which I have dubbed He Who Schemes, holds an almost addictive appeal for the rarefied superhuman cognition of an apex mastermind like myself. The pristine conceptual purity of a beautifully crafted master plan, woven intricately throughout sprawling expanses of both time and space, is truly a delight that only a king-level super intellect can properly savor. He who schemes often finds himself disappointed by the lackluster and ham-fisted execution of all his elegantly sophisticated chrono schemes. This operational king's level carrying out the cherished strategies seem like uncaring, unrefined Philistines, little better than oafish self-proclaimed heroes who witlessly oppose them. Thus, as he who schemes, have elected to enact the most treasured and sublime of my strategic masterworks entirely by myself, launching my beautifully executed operations from the highly security chrono sanctuary of my home time loop. I've appropriately enough pursued tactical modus operandi based wholly on weaponized time loops. As we see the one who schemes looking at the time loop, ready for his next fantastic victims, represents one of the most prized chrono loop weapons. Behold that Fantastic Four, unwittingly hijacked as they time travel to yet another daring adventure in their serendipitously vulnerable chrono vehicle. Mr. Fantastic Time Sled, aka Rosebud 2. Reed Richards, alas, neglected to equip his crude invention with even the most rudimentary or temporal countermeasures, which allowed he who schemes to divert them from their intended chrono destination into a branching alternate timeline, and twist it back on itself in an endlessly repeating, off-key importance, mnemonically resetting time loop. The Fantastic Four exchange banter, but all of a sudden appears King the Conqueror. The duration of their imprisoning, the time loop is exactly 5 minutes. Greetings, novice time travelers. King the Conqueror?
And Petunia's girdle. What's he doing here?
Which of hundreds and hundreds of playthroughs researching optimal dialogue tree variations. Though the prospect pains me dearly, the Conqueror must request your aid in a matter of gravest consequence. This can't be good.
Oh yeah. How did you find us?
Our aid has proven then to be just enough time to persuade and recruit them to my cause, however reluctantly. For, as I've shown you, I cannot counter Victor Von Doom's clever chrono scheme directly. Only you can hope to stop him, I'm afraid. More experienced chrononauts might just have been able to perceive the true nature of the continuously repeating plight, but these unfortunates are condemned to the cycle endlessly and ignorantly through their 5-minute eternity. Tragic perhaps, but undeniably quite useful to he who schemes. As the Fantastic Four make the decision, they have no choice. Jump to the Red Goblin and Flexo fighting.
Game!
Metalface, as our game with the game, enters its final 30 seconds of maniacally crazed symbiote battle outside the Grand Garden Arena. And the coercive imprinting I secretly wove in the symbiote rascal's consciousness so long ago now flowers fully. 8 decades earlier, a time-traveling Victor Von Doom confronted a notably star-crossed proto-symbiote Flexo. I have chosen and revised and expanded your imprinting, Flexo. This reprogramming will invoke the mind law of the ungainly opioids you seek, and begins the lengthy process of hypnotically encoding the creature with weaponized versions of the opioid's mind-switching neurojujitsu techniques. To arm him against my own symbiote puppet in our present-day struggle. A clever move. Yes, one, but that I've already preempted. Enters the one who schemes secret weapon, that Fantastic Four, and they take out Dr. Doom before he can implant his reprogramming. Unfortunately for his good doctor, his imaginative little gambit is now, dare I say, doomed? Pardon me as I chuckle indulgently. Fantastic Four takes out Dr. Doom. Of course, this particular super team represents the ideal weapon choice to wield against poor Victor, or Metal Face, as his incompletely imprinted puppet refers to him. Who better to frustrate and flummox him than hatred of Reed Richards, his very bitterest of besties knows, other than myself, that is. We see the Fantastic Four stuck in a time loop, over and over again, stopping Victor Von Doom and numerous times in space to stop him whenever he tries to re-imprint on Flexo. He can never get it done. Kane seems like he's stopped Doom for good. And when Doom subsequently chrono jumps to a different time frame to again attempt opioid lore imprinting with the proto-symbiote. For I have shown you, I cannot counter Victor Von Doom's clever chrono scheme directly. Only you can hope to stop him, I'm afraid. I simply revisit the victimized Fantastic Four's time loop and dispatch them to intercept him once more. Repeat as necessary. My unsuspecting weapons can repeat this exercise of futility as long as you care to endure it, my endearingly stubborn opponent. Our game's outcome is now inescapably inevitable, dear Victor, as you will soon realize to your dismay. King prevails, Victor! We jump back to the Red Goblin fighting Flexo. King prevails? And who's Victor? Normie's definitely confused on what's going on. Even as you sensibly chronosport ill-fated robot replicas in your place to ever-widening series points of time, you would surely be galled to know that the primitive chrono-tracking gear that Richards installed in his jury-rigged time sled is being used to foil you. Thus, time and time again, that accursed Richards and his teammates torment me unceasingly as they unwittingly catch paw of me, who screams, of course, poor Victor! Ha ha ha! This insolence shall not be brooked. Outrageous! They dare defy the wheel of doom! See, no matter what Dr. Doom does, the Fantastic Four stops him and his Doombots in his tracks every time. Within only a few more violent and eventful seconds, my symbiote puppet will eliminate you, would-be symbiote puppet. Listen to me, rascal. You gotta fight this. King prevails! As theoretically insignificant a loss as this might actually be, within the broader context of greater game involving vastly more consequential assets across the endless battlegrounds of time and space, I am well aware that nonetheless, the technically low stakes drubbing you will surely chagrin you to an infuriating degree, for you see, from a perspective of a true master of time, and not a mere temporal tourist like yourself, I already know that neither you nor all the overclocked scheme bots in Latveria will be able to demise a viable counter-move. Thank you, fools. We must boldly exploit the grandfather paradox, mewing cretin! That would dangerously destabilize Doom's own cyclic timeline. Unfortunately for your tender ego, my dear Victor, nothing can prevent my imminent victory. Nothing. Nothing! We see the Fantastic Four stopping another Doombot. Reed needs to inform his team that they're stuck in a time loop. He's the only one that knows. This is the few hundredth time he's actually told them. And this is why he's sad, because this has happened too many times, and they need to escape the time loop. Maybe this time will be different. The one who schemes, however, made a miscalculation, because this Reed is actually fully chrono-aware, and he knows that he's stuck in a time loop. Reed has proposed an idea to go straight to the source, to ask what's going on with the time loops, and exactly what Doom is planning. That way they can figure out what's going on and find a solution. They're gonna take the time sled to Latveria. Let's go! That glow, it can only be chrono radiation. Temple intruders in Castle Doom. Who dares? We dare! We dare actually a lot. The Fantastic Four have traveled to Latveria to confront the Doombots. Reed is able to elastically manipulate his vocal cords to sound like Dr. Doom and convinces him that he's Dr. Doom. Silent, witness cyber fools. A voice command return to basic service protocol. Passcode Doom Rex. I'm undeniably Doom in Richard's form. Not only of you sniveling Jack Snapes deserve an explanation. Voice imprint confirmed. What is thy bidding, my master in disguise? As they convince him, he's able to ask exactly what he needs. Your liege demands full and immediate elucidation of your chrono scheme involving awkwardly named proto-symbiote Flexo, and what precisely you intend the outcome of this temporarily convoluted operation. As you know, Master, we are assigned to task the foiling of Kang's imprinted symbiotes. Only experiments with the Mind Lord and the Ovioids have proven their techniques eminently adaptable after all. Normie Osborn in the year 2024, you say? Intriguing. In theory, that should purge their cursed Kang entirely from the symbiote's hive mind, my master. Boom! This is essentially conveyed the necessary clarification of this method, scheme bots. Indeed, your explanations have helped identify a lesser of two evils. As to wheels it! Back to Rascal! No, Rascal!
King prevails!
The final seconds of this match tick away as my symbiote plaything visually crushed yours, dear Victor, while mindlessly proclaiming my victory over and over again in a childish, if not infantile gesture on my part. While it's futilely protesting, human occupant struggles against the inevitable, in your manner no doubt echoing your own powerless frustration, even as he who schemes deploys his most fantastic of tools sets again and again to negate any possible counter-move. A time loop! Oh no, it's the Fantastic Four! Greetings, novice time travelers. Boo! Hiss!
Well, if this ain't a praying Chrono Daddy, pretty good description from them scheme bots, gotta say. Sheesh!
Ha! Boo! Insulted, really. We weren't even here manipulated by the Conqueror himself. Terribly insulting, to be honest. You're a lesser Kang variant, uncharacteristically, even obsessively delighting in your own cleverness. He who schemes, correct? Whereas the Kang we've encountered before always struck me as far more practical sort.
A lesser Kang variant.
Incidentally, during the last 100 odd repetitions, I've covertly upgraded the time sled's chrono tracking gear back to trace your home loop. And mind if we drop in?
Temporal drop engaged!
Boop! I know not what you hope to achieve with this futile gambit, Richard, but... Ben, Johnny, you know what to do. You got it, Reed. Flame on! How's this scheme working out for you, Kangster? Seems like it's going down in flames, I'd say.
Past, present, or future, it's all the same, cause it's clobbering time!
The lesser variant of Kang, the one whose scheme is able to make a time loop and churn Ben Grimm's hand upon himself, and he's clobbering himself. Clobbering, clobbering, clobbering. Yikes! The lesser variant of Kang then proceeds to use the same time loop on Johnny Storm, clobbering him as well. It's clobbering time. Apparently so. And Reed Richards go to the main time terminal to crack it and hack it. He's actually devised a plan over 1,000 times. He's been sneaking in, second by second in, to actually learn how to copy his brain signature to be just like Kang's in order to take control. Kang can't believe it. It's impossible. He thought he had it under surveillance, but he didn't do it correctly. And now Reed Richards was able to send him in a time loop, sending him right back to the scheme bots, sittingly stuck in a 5-second loop over and over again. Couldn't have happened to a bunch of nicer schemers. Which of course will now leave Doom free to interact with Flexo again back in 1942 and hypnotically imprint him with the weaponized variation of the Mind Lord of the Ovioids. A countermove that will in turn bear fruit 8 decades later, when the reeling proto-symbiote finds itself only seconds away from the imminent demise at the claws of the Kang-controlled symbiote Rascal.
Kang prevails!
No! Just as Schemebots originally planned, Flexo will unleash the Ovioid's repurposed mental martial arts. Metal-faced wins. At the last possible moment, of course, and completely purge Kang's coercive influence from Rascal's eternal hive mind in one fell neuroswoop. If you'll pardon the neologism. Neologism? Pardoned, Reed. And thus will Doom triumphantly prevail over demonstrably inferior strategic wiles of the breeding Krog Dandy Kang. Are you okay, Rascal? We're done with all that prevailing Kang, right?
Kang? Who's that, Normie?
I'm not really sure myself. We'll talk about it later, okay? Normie. Yeah, but that's me. And this is Rascal, who I'm pretty sure does remember trying to tear your head off.
What? Why would I do that?
Long story, Rascal.
But Rascal likes those, Normie.
So who's Metalface? Long story, Normie. Our symbiote heroes are now free from their pseudo leaders, and they can join back to the Venom War. Let's see what happens. Can't claim that I'm thrilled to have enabled Doom's scheme on an opposed to a Kang scheme though. But Doom is, I suppose, well, arguably closer to some degree of relatable humanity than Kang's inhuman smearing of himself across an eternity worth of recursive timelines and a need-state chrono loops. Plus, well, the Schemebot's Flexo Gambit clearly seemed the least bad option available to us. Imagine Doom's expression though, if you were here to realize that his worst enemies were responsible for his long-awaited victory over Kang. Thanks, but I'll pick a pass on imagining Doom's face.
Ugh, that'll do a million. Ugh, pack a punch, don't it?
No kidding, big fella. We'll just have to trust. Back in their own time frame, Flexo and Normie Osborn and Rascal can deal with the lingering consequences of the choices we made. Good thing that symbiote adjacent tend to lead eventful but arguably charmed lives, not unlike us, I suppose. On the bright side, we must have thrown something of a temporal monkey wrench into the long-term master planning of both Doom and Kang, due to their schemebots and scheme selves winding up locked into a 5-second eternity of never-ending apex supervillain posturing. And we see Reed Richards take a closer look as the one who schemes and the schemebots and their eternal loop of awesomeness. He knows one day Kang will be able to get out of that time loop, so they better get out of his base as soon as they can. The Fantastic Four are off on a new adventure. Let's go! Is this the end? Let's see what happens in the next episode of the Venom War.